Welcome on into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is Thursday morning, so we got some more football this evening, and we're going to be looking at the Week 3 quarterback and tight end rankings. First of all, I would like to say thank you. There we go. Thank you, over there, to the members of the channel, The Roll 07, Jay Berg, and Robbie D. I appreciate you so very much. You don't even know. And yeah, that's great. You can also become a member yourself. Just 99 cents, that's all. And it is thoroughly appreciated. Don't forget, too, these rankings will get updated throughout the week. Quarterback, tight end position tend to get updated less than the running back and wide receiver positions most weeks. But you hear things, you hear good arguments, you realize maybe you were drunk while you made the initial ranking. I don't really drink, but you get the idea here. Sometimes you just look at things a little bit later and you say, well, you know, I don't quite think that actually. So, updated rankings you can find on the website, www.theffforge. All of the rankings are up on the website now, and there are links down in the description to that for every position. And you can also come in live Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be here on YouTube for all of your start-sit questions prior to kickoff on Thursday night. Saturday night, I go live at the same time, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here for your start-sit questions, a lot of trade questions, a little bit more general just football talk. On Saturdays, we were here for 3 hours last weekend, so hope to continue that pacing. And then on Sunday mornings, 2 hours prior to kickoff, I am also live, so 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and all the way over to, 8 in the morning on the West Coast. So I think that's all the announcements we really need. Let's first recap how I did last week with my loves and my fades. Loves, fades, for those who are newer, no different than start and sit. You can figure out which is which. Also, for those who are newer, next week you will start to see a little bit of a different visual because I will have the projections. I will start to mathematically figure out what is the expected range of outcomes, most likely. The range within about 2/3 of the time that these players will end up scoring within. So, for last week, my loves, I chose Jared Goff as my love of the week. That fell on my face planted. I thought that was a slam dunk. Had him ranked 6th. He finished as a quarterback 27, so that's yucky. If I didn't have him ranked 6th, I had him ranked right around there. I don't recall at the top of my head exactly, but visually, I think that's right. And then my fades went 1 for 1 here, so 50% here, not too bad. CJ Stroud finished with 14.3 fantasy points. I said to fade him. I was not proclaiming that Stroud was going to absolutely suck, rather that this was a tough matchup and that he wouldn't have a big week, which was exactly what happened. So I got that one correct, and there you go. I think I had him ranked like 11th, 12th, 13th, somewhere in there. That should bring us on to Week 3. And the first tier here starts off with Josh Allen as my quarterback 1, followed by Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. Normally, I don't like to put a guy who I've ranked this highly into my loves or my fades, but also sometimes guys who I have ranked this high are not automatic starts for one reason or another. Joe Burrow, he's done okay, surprisingly good actually on the season, given the concerns around Cincinnati and that it hasn't been fantastic. But it hasn't been fantastic for quarterbacks overall so far. Been more of a running league, and passing game has struggled and has been just less efficient and less used, etc. So this week, Joe Burrow going up against Washington. Do I need to say more? This is kind of just I took, like taking candy out of a baby's hands, right? This is the easy choice. It's the correct choice. If you have Joe Burrow and you're hesitant on starting him, this is the week to start him. Washington has allowed the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks, and one of the quarterbacks that they faced was Daniel Jones. So I think that tells you something about that second. It's pretty... Washington is a team that is still looking towards the future, okay? Patrick Mahomes going up against Atlanta. Jalen Hurts going up against New Orleans. You know, you're starting these guys. Patrick Mahomes, I do have some concerns that maybe he'll be more like he was last year without Hollywood. Hollywood Brown was important to this offense, and then Isaiah Pacheco being out too. Actually, I think helps to offset that a little bit, as long as these receivers can be better than the receivers of last year, which probably a little bit. How much? I don't know. So I do think more of a passing attack though for Kansas City. They used to be much more pass heavy. Then the league has changed a little bit, and they got Isaiah Pacheco. I think that was a big part of the reason that they were able to lean on that run a little bit more, and I don't know that that continues. So bring us on to the second tier. A lot of little tiers here for these rankings, for the quarterback rankings this week. Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff. So we're going to give Jared Goff another try here up against Arizona. Kyler Purdy going against Detroit. Obviously, that's a very nice matchup. Brock Purdy going up against the Los Angeles Rams. He's thrown for a lot of yards so far, and I expect that to continue here against the Rams. So just kind of your safe plays with a little bit of hope and expecting this Detroit offense to figure things out. Ben Johnson, they need to go a little bit back to the basics and just take some of those dump offs to Sam Laporta, right? As I bring us on to my next tier, goes from quarterback 9, Baker Mayfield, all the way down to quarterback 13. So after Baker, we've got Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, Derek Carr, and Jaden Daniels. Baker Mayfield going up against Denver, not too concerning there for a guy who's been on fire, and they have the weapons to get past this defensive cornerback that they're going up against. Anthony Richardson going up against Chicago. Once again, with that offense struggling, even in this matchup, I think I don't think it'll look great. Maybe they get things turned around there in Chicago. But I think that this offense will have enough opportunities to get things going and have opportunities to score. But, it might be a slow start. There. C.J. Stroud going up against Minnesota. I have talked about this in a couple of times, at least so far. Minnesota defensively might just have the secret sauce to stopping this Shanahanian offense, which is what C.J. Stroud runs. And so I am concerned about C.J. Stroud. I am concerned about a repeat of last week against San Francisco and just a limited upside. This is kind of not too different than, it was C.J. Stroud last week. Not too different than that. I'm just not expecting 20 fantasy points. I'm expecting 14, 16, somewhere closer to that range. So we will see what happens. But if you have the opportunity to play a Baker Mayfield, if you have Jared Goff as well, or Brock Purdy as well, I'm going to go those routes this week over C.J. Stroud. Derek Carr going up against Philadelphia, a lot of upside there. This tier, I'm going to probably change, almost certainly, and I think it's going to be Derek Carr moving up on it. It just feels so good. It feels like a trap, doesn't it? We got 2 great weeks of Derek Carr, surprisingly, and now we have the matchup where we expect him to do something good. Will it happen? I don't know. I think it does. I trust this offensive system. I had Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr very much in the same tier in the offseason as guys who, I thought were great values as second quarterbacks because of the potential upside if things were to go right. And so far it has. And then I'm concerned about the upside here for Anthony Richardson and C.J. Stroud. Jaden Daniels going up against Cincinnati. I think this is a solid matchup where he could have another solid week. But he's a little boomer bustness to him, so that's why he's at the back of this tier. I could flip this tier into any way I want, and I wouldn't completely argue with it. So I expect there to be some changes there. Next tier, just a little skinny tier here. Quarterbacks 14 and 15, Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold going against Houston, so I do think there is some upside there, especially if that Minnesota defense can slow down that Houston, keep that Houston offense punting a few more times. That would help. Dak Prescott going up against Baltimore. So there's some concern here, but also some optimism based on talent and situation and what they've done so far this season. That's going to bring us on to this next tier, which goes from my quarterback 16 all the way down to quarterback 21, Kirk Cousins, followed by Geno Smith, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, Gardner Minshew. Next tier, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford, Justin Herbert, sort of a little pit stop of, bad floor, possible, good talent kind of guys here. So you'll see, we'll see whatever the case there. But they're kind of back there. Still, startable. It's once we get into this next tier that we're really concerned if we have to start these guys. Unless, of course, you're in a 2-quarterback league, a little different. But Caleb Williams, Will Levis, Bo Nix, Skylar Thompson, Daniel Jones, Andy Dalton, Malik Willis, Jacoby Brissett, and mix these up. You could put Jacoby Brissett at the top of this if you wanted. It's just, be playing the Jets this week. But this season, are the Jets as scary as they have been. I don't know. This will be a big test for the New York Jets. I'm holding on to them for my DST for one more week to see how they do against New England. If they can't take advantage of this offensive line, I'm pretty concerned about them, and I'm open to changing out my DST for something different. That's going to bring us on to the tight end rankings. Let me get that up here. There they are. And now, before we get on to these fades, loves, let's look at what I did last week for my loves and my fades. So for my loves, I went 0 for 1, but there's a little bit of an asterisk on this one. It's not the asterisk. I picked Dalton Schultz was my love. That was wrong. No asterisk here. I thought a different game plan was going to end up having to be worked, but Nico Collins proved that he is the man, and we don't have to worry about matchups with him. So Dalton Schultz ends up getting 3.1 fantasy points. That's obviously not going to cut it for a guy who I put a love on. But I did bring up the fact that Brock Bowers was my original pick for my love of the week last week, and I still talked about him, and I talked him up a bit. And I also mentioned that I did not want to congratulate the people who drafted Brock Bowers, mostly because I don't want to curse it. And so I still don't want to curse it, and I don't want to congratulate you. Congratulations. Nice job on giving some faith to that situation. Yeah, that's looking like that could be possibly like a league-winning pick, honestly. I mean, it's looking good through the first 2 weeks for Brock Bowers. Hope that continues for you people who put some faith in Brock Bowers. That's fantastic. Now, I'm starting to have a little bit of a cursed reaction when it comes to my tight end fades. For the second week in a row, we got a DQ here, disqualification. That meaning the player did not qualify in terms of how much time that they played, if they played at all. 2 weeks ago, Jake Ferguson got injured early on, did not qualify. This week, Evan Ingram goes down before the game even starts, did not qualify. So keep an eye out for who my fade is this week, and maybe avoid that heavily. Just get them off your roster because they're going to be injured soon. There we go. That's going to bring us on to my week 3 tight end ranking. Starting off with my first tier, just a little tier, George Kittle. A little tier, little guy. Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. George Kittle, Trey McBride. I don't think I have to explain those. And Brock Bowers, I don't think I have to explain either, actually, surprisingly, why he's this high. Insane in the membrane. Let's get on to the second tier of tight ends. Going from my tight end 4, which is Mark Andrews, down to my tight end 8, followed by Sam Laporta at tight end 5, Travis Kelce, Dalton Kincaid, and Kyle Pitts at tight end 8. So, Mark Andrews, we're still going to, give a little bit of faith, love into this situation. Who do we put higher than this? We have our 3 now that we can trust for sure, and then it starts to get question marks. Sam Laporta going up against Arizona, really like that. Think that this could be a week where maybe we do see a little less Jameson Williams, maybe we see a little bit more Sam Laporta as they try to just balance things out. That offense, just the harmony's not there, not unlike Baltimore's offense. They got to figure out how to make something that consistently keeps this ball moving and doesn't look all janky like. And so that's what these offensive coordinators are there for to do. And I do have more faith in Detroit offense coordinator actually, but. Season-long, Sam Laporta might not be what you drafted him for. Travis Kelce might not be what you drafted him for. I do still have faith. He's going to have some weeks and everything. He's not that old, but he is that old, and this is why I've been avoiding him for the past couple of seasons now, because I knew this day was coming, and I think that it has come, and I just don't know how low to put him yet. And this week against Atlanta, I think this was actually a good matchup as well, if I remember correctly, but 2 weeks at the tight end position is really tough to say what's a good and bad matchup, because even at the end of the season, who these teams faced at tight end oftentimes really impacts how good or bad they were against the tight end position. Not 100% though. Dalton Kincaid going up against Jacksonville. Upside here, there was an argument to put any of these guys in any order here. This is the order that I ended up on. Kyle Pitts also making it into this tier, because I do know that this one, Kansas City, I think, number 1 most allowed points to the tight end position through 2 games of the season so far. So, I guess we can be optimistic about Kyle Pitts for a week. That's going to bring us on to this next tier. Now you see these names and you're like, oh yeah, that's why those names are still up there despite the not so great starts to the season. So Jake Ferguson in at tight end 9. Should have a little asterisk here. There's no guarantee that he's playing this week, but it is likely that he will play, and in that event, I'm probably going back to him, dependent upon, of course, who else I have. But going up against Baltimore, whatever. Dallas Goedert going up against New Orleans. There's some upside on that matchup, I believe. Isaiah Likely going up against Dallas. This is where this position's at. Maybe I should be a little bit lower. Dalton Schultz. Going to get my love of the week again here. So, yeah, I'm going for it again. Last week, we saw George Kittle eat against this Minnesota defense. That was the one area that San Francisco really found its holes, really found a way to get the ball moving. Houston, once again, coming from the same coaching tree, could definitely see something that they're going to be able to take advantage of similarly against this Minnesota defense. So, yeah, going back to the well. And then Pat Freiermuth, and he's been okay at tight end so far this season, not too bad. So going against Los Angeles Chargers, I mean, it is what it is. It's the tight end position. Let's get on to we got a little tier here of guys who I'm willing to go out on a limb and play before I'm getting too concerned here. So tight end 14, we've got Jonnu Smith, and tight end 15, Zach Ertz. Jonnu going up against Seattle. This is just a little bank on Skylar Thompson throwing the ball to the tight end a little bit more, and coming off of a solid week. They don't have that wide receiver 3, so safety blanket there for Jonnu Smith could very well be the case. And Zach Ertz, Cincinnati, this is a guy who I'm going to probably have ranked somewhere around in this area, and depending on the matchup exactly and other tight ends matchups, but each week is the hope and the plan so far. That's going to bring us on to my next tier, which goes from tight end 16 all the way to tight end 24. So we're in mild panic if we have to play these guys, but there is an argument that maybe they could have a week. Kobe Parkinson at tight end 16, followed by my fade of the week, Hunter Henry. So I actually, as much as tight ends suck, I didn't really have too many arguments to fade anybody. I didn't want to start to tell you to fade any of these guys because I just don't think that you can. And then there's optimism for a lot of these guys, which is why they're ranked where they're at. And so, when it came down to it, this is the list here. Kobe Parkinson and then Hunter Henry at 17 was the first one that I'm like, okay, here we go. Because Kobe Parkinson, honestly, you could argue to be a tier above here. But Hunter Henry, I guess you could make the argument here too, going up against the New York Jets. I'm just saying, don't chase the Hunter Henry points. If it doesn't bite you in the butt this week against the New York Jets, then it will bite you in the butt next week when you start him again after 2 good weeks. So I'm very optimistic about the tight ends. This was the best that I could do for my fade, as I explained. Cole Kmet going up against Indianapolis. He just got used a little bit more last week. So hey, maybe there'll be more of that. Probably depends a lot on whether Keenan Allen's playing or not. Mike Gesicki going up against Washington. Taysom Hill, Chig Okonkwo going up against Green Bay. Could he have a touchdown? Very possible. Big player too. Who knows? But very possible. Noah Fant, he's been my boy. So I'm not going to completely give up on him. And this is a matchup where could see him end up getting used. Cade Otton going against Denver. I think they suck against tight ends, if I recall correctly, over the past year. And Hayden Hurst going up against Pittsburgh. They're just, a little bit of faith in that. What do we got here? Tyler Conklin, Tucker Kraft, Foster Moreau, Evan Ingram, David Njoku not being ranked currently. So there are my tight end rankings for week 3 and my quarterback rankings for week 3 of the fantasy football season. Anything that you disagree with, agree with, let me know in the comments. And I'll let you know why, maybe, I end up making the choice I did. Maybe you'll bring up a point I hadn't thought of. You never know. So, peace out. Have a good one. I'll see you hopefully live Thursday, Saturday, both 6 p.m., 30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Sunday morning, 2 hours prior to kickoff. Bye-bye.